Hello, everyone. I'm Ananda, the Galactic Mystic. Welcome to my channel. It's a beautiful autumn morning in the Appalachian Mountains. And as I'm going through my morning routine, I'm really feeling into this just powerfully spectacular Aries full moon on Sunday, the 9th. This full moon is a culmination of powerful desire that stems from some seeds of intention that we planted in the spring. I'm really excited to talk about this with you. So let's get started. So, all of my chickens are Aries. They were all born on, well, hatched on the same day in late March. And while this is not my first chicken flock, it is the first chicken flock that I've had where I was paying attention to their personalities in relation to their sun sign. So, in um, chicken politics, there is a very serious pecking order where we have an alpha, a beta, and there, of course, always has to be someone at the very bottom. So, the hen of ours that is at the very bottom of the pecking order, her name is Aloysius. She's named after my great grandfather. And I will tell you that the other hens bully her relentlessly. They just really harass
Darling.
her. And that part of that is the nature of the pecking order. Now, the thing that is really
Oh, you want the
interesting,
treat?
cool, and kind of beautiful about this dynamic in our flock is that, yes, they are all Aries. They all go after what they want. And maybe that's all chickens. Maybe I'm just making a very obvious analogy here. But the interesting thing about Aloysius, she's our favorite, of course. She's the sweetest, in our opinion. And even though she is the brunt of all of their bad jokes, all of their mean girl vibes, all of the bullying, she never stops going after what she wants. This girl loves the treat bowl.
Hey, Aloysius. You're so pretty. You're so pretty.
She's so passionate about treats that if I walk in um, their fence with the treat bowl in my hand, she will jump into my arms. And, chickens can jump really high. It's really surprising. And especially when fueled by the love of treats or fueled by desire. And so in a way, this situation is an example of pure Aries energy. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It represents cardinal fire. This is the first breath of life. This is the cry of the baby who has just been born, who has just come from the birth canal. And in that birthing, there is a shock. It's freaking cold. It's loud. It's bright. It's intense. This is our final lunar situation before we begin the second and final eclipse season of the year. We will have a new moon solar eclipse in Scorpio towards the end of October, and then early November, we will have a full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus. Eclipse seasons always herald the potential for powerful shifts in our lives. And, a lot of people say that when it's eclipse season, you should not make any major decisions or any big changes in your life. And I will just tell you that I disagree with that. Um, for me personally, and in many of the lives of my clients, eclipse seasons bring culminations of things that we've been desiring, working for, calling into our lives for a long time. And it isn't always like that. Not every eclipse season is going to be spectacularly powerful for every single person. The new moon, the Aries new moon we had April 1st, is when we first planted these seeds. Now, that new moon was the moon of the hero self, and it was conjunct Chiron and Mercury. And whenever we are talking about Aries, we're also talking about Libra, the other sign on the sign on the other end of that axis. And we cannot separate these energies from relationships. And when I say relationships, I don't just mean romantic relationships. I mean anyone and anything that we interact with in our lives. This is, yes, people, our partners, our families, but it's also our relationship with ourselves, with our world, with our own desires, with our role in the world. It's anything that we are interacting with physically, energetically, spiritually, which encompasses damn near everything. Relationships are everything. In the new moon video for the Aries new moon in April, I said something to the effect of, without relationships to reflect ourselves back to us, do we even know that we exist? It is through this reflection and this interacting that we live within that. That's how our lives unfold, by this reflection, this bouncing off of, this interacting. And so, with this full moon in Aries, let me pull up the chart here for you. So, this full moon is occurring on October 9th, 2022 at 4:55 p.m. This is Eastern time. And here is our sun moon opposition in Aries, 16 degrees and 33 minutes of Aries. And so the sun is at 16 degrees and 33 minutes of Libra. The sun is conjunct Venus. The moon is conjunct Chiron. Chiron and Venus are opposing each other. The moon and Venus are opposing each other. So it's pretty spectacular that we began this Aries cycle in April with a new moon conjunct Chiron. So this is literally very clearly a culmination of healing. Full moons are when the fruit becomes visible. We can see it. It's tangible. So something in our lives is tangibly different now. How this is playing out for you will largely depend on how, where 16 degrees of Aries falls in your natal chart, the aspects it's making with your chart. But in a very general sense, this is the culmination of a great healing. And, Chiron is not just about healing, he is a co ruler of Virgo. Virgo is the gateway to proper, healthy, satisfying relationships. When we have Chiron contacts and synastry with other people, especially if this is a romantic or sexual relationship, there is a feeling of belonging in our wholeness. And when I say in our wholeness, I mean warts and all all of our broken pieces are generally felt to be welcome when someone is aspecting our chiron in synastry. And so in this full moon, we have this opportunity for ourselves to welcome all the parts of ourselves home. I can't think of anything more sexy than that. And with Venus here, she is giving us this awareness of love, this awareness of our self-worth. So let's get into some of the aspects involved with this full moon. Of course, Aries is about leadership, desire, aliveness, focusing on the power of our own will. This is the energy that we harness every single time we do something courageously. We do something we're afraid of and we do it anyway. We do it afraid. That's Aries energy operating in our lives. Now, the Libra new moon we just had a couple weeks ago was extraordinarily powerful. And that energy, we are in that. We will still be in that for 6 months, this outrageous creative potential energy. So this Aries culmination right now is going to give us, for the duration, for like a good year or so, a next level of selfhood as a platform for asking for more. Within that desire, of course, we bump up against other people. With Chiron opposing the sun, this is an energy where whatever like self-doubt that we have, before you know it, there's a person or a situation, something on social media that pops up to show you that you're right, that whatever crap you're feeling about yourself or telling yourself, it's correct. Our insecurities can be tragically reflected back to us with this energy. And this is largely because when Chiron and the sun are in a hard aspect like this, the biggest thing is to develop a sense of identity that is purely our own. Now, with Chiron conjunct the moon, this is emotional healing. This gives us the ability to release and heal from emotional debris that we previously could not unlock. And it also gives us as a healer, an extra power to support others doing the same work. It's like you don't have to be perfect in order to be of service to someone else. So whenever Chiron and the moon are conjunct, we can some of the healing comes up around feeling othered, feeling outside of our family, our groups, the world, feeling different, not belonging. So that's when we reach deep within ourselves and see what needs we have that we can take care of ourselves. Chiron opposing Venus asks us to commit ourselves to finding win-win situations, compromise that serves everyone. Because most of the time, we all want the same thing deep down. If we can dig deep enough to the core of what we're wanting, most of the time it's very similar. Now, this full moon is also in a gorgeous sextile with Saturn. And few things in life are as luscious as a supportive Saturn. This is giving us the poise, balance, and dignity so that whatever comes up, we can approach it with perspective and objectivity, even if it's something that's highly emotionally charged, which it may be. Now, this may be irritating to other people. Sometimes people want us to get freaked out, they want us to react. So, having this sextile with Saturn is fantastic because, Aries energy can sometimes be quite intense. It can be dramatic. Then we have this supportive energy of Saturn giving us access to be in a little bit of a cool breeze in a hot room, if you know what I mean. Now, Jupiter is still opposing the Supergalactic Center, which is that point that our Libra new moon was on a couple weeks ago. So he is still asking us to expand what we think is possible in our lives, to expand. We do have a very strong ninth harmonic binovile aspect with this full moon and Pluto. This is going to be digging to the bottom of any of our urges, our needs, our desires that have been repressed or ignored. This is going to be digging that up. This is going to have us talking about our deepest feelings. And we may even find that we're in a light, casual conversation with someone, and it quickly turns into a deeper excavation of our emotional experiences, our fears. And in that depth, we can find real connection. The moon is also in a gorgeous 24th harmonic with Jupiter, which gives us this generous spirit where we're not going to maybe be so petty over little things. We can overlook the weaknesses in others and in ourselves. Now, Pluto is stationing direct, which is a big energy. This is a big deal. Pluto has been retrograde since the end of April. And during that time, we have been, honestly, well, let me finish my thought. During this time, we've been doing deep inner transformation. We've had access to new powers, but we have not been able to bring them out of the closet yet or out of the darkness. And with Pluto stationing direct, anytime there's a station, a planet is in extreme, there's extreme expression of the planet. And Pluto is also out of bounds. So he's running wild. He's like, y'all, notice me, and we will notice him. So delicious. And one of the things that I talk about a lot with my private community, the deep divers, is to notice, especially full moons, to notice how they feel in our bodies for each of us. Like, for example, for me, whenever there's a Taurus full moon, I know that I'm going to need to have a dance party in the kitchen because physically I have to move the energy. Now, not everyone is going to experience it like that. So it's important that each individual learns to feel how these energies feel to themselves. So notice. This is how we experience astrology in our lives. This is how we gain real wisdom about the zodiac and its energies and how we can work with them. We do have a couple fixed stars to talk about here. The first fixed star that I want to talk about that is very tightly conjunct this full moon in Aries is the star Notus Secundus, which is Delta Draconis in the constellation of Draco the Dragon. Now, Notus Secundus is Latin for the second knot. And this star sort of shows us where the second of the four twists in the serpentine form of Draco is. So in China, this star was included in the asterism called Heaven's Kitchen. And this evokes this theme of divine nourishment, sustenance, and, mythologically speaking, there are countless myths of this concept of a cauldron that never runs dry or a cup that never is empty. And that's what I think of when I think of the heaven's kitchen. This source of sustenance that is ever available. Now, in ancient Arabia, the constellation Draco was seen as a group of mother camels protecting a baby camel from hungry hyenas. And the Egyptians associated it with the hippopotamus headed goddess Taweret, which her name means great one. And she was the goddess, or is the goddess, of pregnancy, childbirth, and basically all forms of protection, but specifically the protection of women, children, the innocent, and those in need of strong protection. And I love this sort of theme that correlates between the ancient Arabian idea that this was a group of mother camels protecting a baby, and then the connection with this goddess who has the ferocious motherly instinct to protect. Our second fixed star conjunct this full moon is Alpharaz. Now, Alpharaz is the brightest star in the Andromeda constellation. Now, in Greek mythology, Andromeda was the daughter of Queen Cassiopeia and King Cepheus of Ethiopia. Now, the queen boasted that her daughter was more beautiful than the ocean dwelling nymphs known as the Nereids, and this angered Poseidon, who sent a powerful sea monster to destroy the land. Now, the king and queen were like, oh my God, how do we stop this monster? They consulted an oracle who told them that their daughter Andromeda must be sacrificed to the monster. So Andromeda was chained to the cliff until the hero Perseus came wielding the head of Medusa. So again, we have snakes here. And it was the head of Medusa that turned the monster to stone, and Andromeda's life was spared. Now, this story comes up a lot astrologically because we have Medusa, who represents this feminine wounding. Medusa was a rape victim, and everything that happened to her, the reason that she was in that form, none of it was her fault. She was a victim. She was victim blamed and then turned into this monster and then murdered. She was pregnant when she was murdered. And then her head used as this magical talisman to save Andromeda, who also is sort of just like being pushed around by the whims of others. So, in all of this, it's pretty interesting to take this whole idea of like being a victim to our circumstances and bringing in this culmination of Aries energy. The tarot card for Aries is the Emperor. He is the boss. So, what vestiges of our power have we been ignoring? What power, fueled by our great aliveness, can we bring into our lives right now to not necessarily being happy? Happiness comes and goes, but meaning is what makes life worth living. So, what power to derive meaning is fresh for us for the picking? happiest Aries full moon to you. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I hope you are blessed beyond measure, and I hope that you experience deep peace in your life. Much love. I will see you soon.